In this video, I'm gonna show you the meta account structure that we use to successfully scale DTC brands from 6 to 7 figure in revenue. I'm gonna take you step by step in Meta how to build this account structure so you can visually see for yourself as well. Now, without further ado, let's get started. All right, now there's a few things that is involved with this. As you can see over here, the campaign structure, right? So this is the campaign structure that we follow. The biggest thing that's gonna differ is essentially the type of bidding strategy that we use, right? So oftentimes people use highest volume, lowest cost bid strategy, right? We use cost cap, right? So cost cap is essentially setting like specific CAC or ROAS target on a specific campaign. And essentially what Meta does is it doesn't spend your specific ad dollars if it doesn't think there's a high probability of getting your specific CAC target or your specific ROAS target that you set on that specific campaign, right? So that works if your account has some form of data in it that the system can go off. But like if it doesn't, sometimes it can be a little bit harder. That's the only like difference between this setup and maybe like another setup that we would set, but we use both setups. So in this specific example, we're gonna use just highest volume, lowest cost bid strategy, right? Start at the very top that you see over here. Essentially like explain to you what this is. So there's essentially two campaigns that we built, right? Two campaigns. We don't build like 10, 20 different campaigns. There's two campaigns essentially that we built. That campaign is going to be focused on acquisition. For the brand, the most important things for brands is new customer acquisition. So our campaign is going to be specifically focused around that. So we have an acquisition campaign set up as a CBO. That's going to be like campaign budget optimization, right? So essentially to where Meta optimizes ad spend without you obviously having to touch it. And this is going to be optimized based upon which ad set is performing the best or which audience group is performing the best, right? And so we have a CBO campaign set up, and then we also have ad sets under that, right? Again, which is going to be specific audiences that you're essentially going to be targeting. Within that ad set, we typically have anywhere from 4 to like 6 creative, but in the one I'm going to show you, we're probably going to do like 10. So that's going to be one ad set. And then we have another ad set, right? It's the same thing, highest volume, lowest cost, 4 to 6 creative. And then we have another ad set, 4 to 6 creative. And all of these is focused on one specific product. We're not promoting or pushing or running ads against a bunch of different products, a bunch of different SKUs. No, it's focused on one particular product. So we know exactly the margins of that specific product. We know like the ROAS target that we need, or we know the CAC target that we need in order to break even and to be able to make a profit, right? So that's all this campaign is going to be focused on, that one product. And I'll show you an example of that. And then the next thing that we also set up is remarketing, right? Because we also know that there's going to be a large percentage of people that through our acquisition campaign that don't convert. So we want to make sure that we retarget them using a dynamic retargeting ad. And specifically dynamic because we want to show the consumer the exact same product that they essentially either added to cart or initiated a checkout but just didn't purchase. So we want to use dynamic product ad for that specific purpose. This is the setup, right? Now, let me explain in the case that you are using a bid cap and cost cap, because again, cost caps are essentially you're forcing the Meta algorithm, the Meta system to essentially not spend your advertising dollar unless it's a high probability that is going to generate the CAC target that you set, or using min ROAS, which is essentially using target ROAS. So it's not going to spend your advertising dollars unless it's going to generate the ROAS that you set, right? The proper way in which you want to set that up, right? So if you're using this account structure breakdown or setup, it's very important that how much budget you set on the campaign level, that's very important, right? So you want to essentially already understand what your CAC is, right? What your break-even CAC is, right? Or what your ideal CAC is for this specific campaign. And so you want to take 7, right? Which is going to be 7 day, and you want to multiply that by your CAC, right? In addition to that, multiply that by the number of ad set that you're going to be running. So in this specific example, we have 3 ad sets that we're going to be running. So also multiply that by 3. And the reason why we're doing 7 is because Meta says to exit the learning phase, you need to get 50 conversion within a 7-day time frame, right? And so that's the specific reason why we use the structure. So we use 7 times what your CAC is times what the number of ad set that you're going to be running, right? So just to kind of give you an example to show you what that budget would be. So we have 7, and then we know that our customer acquisition cost is $30. Multiply that by 30. Also multiply that by 3. So that's going to be essentially, we're going to be spending $630 on a daily basis. So that's if we have a $30 CAC, and then we're going to be running 3 ad sets, anywhere from 4 to 6 different creatives. So you need to be spending $630 a day. If that may be a little bit too much for you, maybe you want to do maybe just like 1 or 2 ad sets. So when you do the math again, so that's going to be 7 times 30 times 2, right? So it's just gonna be essentially like $420. So that's essentially how much you're gonna need to spend on the specific campaign that we're gonna be running over here. Okay, now that I explained that, let me jump into the account and show you essentially the building process of this, right? Now, as you can see over here in this specific account, this is a newer brand that we're essentially like running this for. So we can see that we have multiple campaigns, but I'm gonna create a new campaign and show you essentially kind of what we've already have built up. So as you can see over here, we have those bid caps and ROAS targets specifically set up, but the common thing that we see that like they don't specifically spend much because the account doesn't have enough historical data to essentially know who our customer is, right? So that's why we're building our campaigns more using highest volume, lowest cost. So I'm gonna go ahead over here and start building a new campaign, right? To show you what that is. So in e-commerce, your goal is always to generate conversions, to generate sales, right? So you don't really have to worry about any of these other campaign objectives, right? If you're doing lead gen, then yes, you want to do lead, but for e-commerce specifically, obviously we're going to be doing sale. So I'm going to select sale, and then it's going to open up the campaign itself, and then we can start, essentially like naming this and like seeing what that structure is. Okay, cool. So we're gonna name our campaign. So this is our typical naming convention. US is who we're gonna be targeting. This is an acquisition campaign, and this is gonna be for the product release, and then we're gonna put the date when this was launched. This is launch the 12/26. Boom. So that's our name, the naming convention that we use. And then the buying type is always gonna be on auction, right? And then the campaign, obviously, objective we chose was sales, right? And then you also have like Advantage Plus catalog. So for this one, we're not going to use a specific catalog. So we're going to turn this one off because we're not using a catalog for this specific campaign. So we're going to turn that off. And so this is essentially where you select the campaign budget optimization. So it's going to be set, the budget is going to be managed on the campaign level as opposed to the ad set level, right? And the reason why we do this is because we don't specifically want to control the budget ourselves, right? We don't want to be looking at the data every single day and trying to decide where to push budget, right? We want to let Meta do that because Meta is so sophisticated because it has all the data that it will need, and it's going to compute those data in real time and determine which ad set is performing the best to push our dollars in. So we don't want to do all that computation because if we were to do that, we would be really bad at that. So we let the system, the machine, to essentially do that for us. And so that's why we always select campaign budget optimization. There are specific cases in which you want to use ad set budget optimization, but again, for this video, we're going to do campaign budget optimization. If you recall what I mentioned before, if we're just running, for example, if we're going to do 2 ad sets over here, if we're running 2 ad sets, then if you recall what the budget for that was going to be, it's going to be $420. So we're going to set $420 as the target spend over here. Guys, again, if you don't have the budget to be obviously spending this much, start with 1 ad set, right? Start with 1 audience group essentially that you're going to be testing. Okay. All right, cool. Now, obviously, if you have, if you only have like $100 to spend a day, like that is also fine. So you have to test that to see what the outcome of that is going to be. So we got our budget set, and then we're over here where it says like the audience segment reporting. So it's also important that we do this. So you want Meta to understand who your existing customer is and who are your engaged audience, right? So engaged audience and existing audience. So engaged audience are essentially people who have engaged with your business, with your brand over the past, right? And so that will look like website visitors. That looks like people who initiate a checkout or add a product to cart or view a specific product, right? So that's all who's going to be involved within the engaged audience. And obviously existing customer are your existing customer that you have, right? Meta needs to know this data. So when we're focusing just on new customer, it knows not to go after those specific customers or code of those customers, right? So now that we have that set up, we then move to the ad set. So we go to next, and then the ad set, we're simply gonna make this broad. So this is gonna be boom. And I'll explain to you the reason why we set it up this way, okay? So conversion location is gonna be websites. Performance goal is gonna be to maximize the number of conversions, right? Maximize number of conversion. You also have other performance goals and like maximize value of conversion. So in this particular scenario, if you were to choose maximize value of conversion, this is typically if you're doing like a catalog campaign, you have like multiple different SKUs with different like price points, you want to select this conversion goal because Meta then optimizes for the highest value within all those different SKUs, right? So it's optimizing for the highest value, meaning it's going to try to find a customer who has the highest likelihood of purchasing the product with the highest price point as opposed to like the lowest price point, right? But for this specific example, because we're just running ads for one specific SKU, we don't need to worry about that. So we're just going to do the maximum number of conversion. Awesome. So obviously you want to make sure that you're selecting the right pixel so you can track all of that. And the conversion event that we're optimizing for is going to be purchase. Okay. And we're not doing any cost per result, right? I kind of explained to you. So we're not going to be doing that. So essentially going to be using the highest volume, lowest cost. Attribution model is going to be the standard one. They do have an incremental one, but we're going to use the standard one over here. And then you don't really have to worry about like the budget and schedule, any of that sort. Audience. Now, if you're doing an advantage shopping campaign, typically your audience is going to be broad, right? Your audience is going to be broad, and we do recommend just to leave it broad because the moment where you start to get into, I'm going to target this specific audience, I'm going to target this specific audience or this specific demographic age group, then you're kind of restricting the algorithm. You're kind of restricting the meta system from doing the work for you. So you want to give it free range because I'm telling you, it knows more about your customer than you even would, if that makes sense. It knows everything, and so you want to let it do its thing, essentially. It's the simplest way that I can say that. So we're going to target the United States, right? And then when we further go down over here, so age 18 up, language is going to be all languages, and then suggested audience, let's see, obviously you can come in here and start putting in like your like detailed audience and things within that skill, but I told you again, you want to let the meta algorithm to do all of that for you. And I'm going to tell you more, I'm going to explain to you more once we get to the creative side, why you always want to leave everything broad. Cool. So then ad transparency, you don't really have to worry about that. Placement, we're going to leave that on the Advantage Plus. And let's see, none excluded over here. And then, but yeah, don't worry about the creative that you're seeing over here. So now that we got my audience set up, we then want to click next. Cool. Now this is essentially where we start building the ads. First and foremost, if you're a brand and you have multiple pages, right? If you have multiple brand pages, you always want to make sure that you're selecting the right page to use, right? So let me just go over here, make sure that we're selecting the right page for the specific brand. Boom, that's selected. So the Facebook and Instagram page are the right one, and then we can start essentially like building our ad. So I'm going to slowly explain to you what these are, so you essentially know. So if you had the product catalog set in place, you wanted to run like your ad plus like the product catalog, then you would likely select this Advantage Plus catalog ad, right? But we're doing manual ad, like we're building everything from scratch, so we're not going to select this other option over here. And then we're not doing a carousel or anything like that. We're essentially like building single image and video ads, right? Multi-advertising on. So this option essentially what it says is your ad can appear with other ads in the same unit to help promote discoverability. Yeah, we leave that on sometimes, and I don't think it's that big of a deal, quite frankly. We haven't seen a significant difference when we do select that on and not. And then destination is going to be the website. You want to make sure that we obviously have the website that we're using. So let me just open this page over here. So for this brand, this is going to be a single product focus page. This is what we call a listicle. And we'll talk more about that in like other videos, because I really just want to focus on building the specific account within the structure that I mentioned. So boom, we're going to pick that, copy the URL. And again, you can see the product over here. So it's release. This is the product. That's all the product that we're focusing on. So we're going to take that URL. We're going to go back over here. Okay, cool. Now we have that. So we're going to insert the URL in here. And then we're going to go down and just look at some other settings that it gives us, some other options that it gives us. You're going to get this option over here to where you can start building the ad. As you start building it, this will start to populate how it's going to be displayed within like the Instagram news feed, stories, etc. So we just inserted the URL, and then over here we set up the creative. This is where we set up the creative, but I just want to scroll down over here just kind of show you what the other things are. So set up a test, creative testing. So with this one, essentially what you can do is you can add up to like compare up to 5 different versions of your creative in a test. So I think you can add up to 5 different creatives in here. So you can add you can add 5 like images if we're using images, 5 headlines, 5 descriptions, 5 primary copy. And essentially what it does, it just mixes it and matches and just shows different combination to different audience cohort or different audience segments, right? So I would highly recommend just to test this, but we just want to keep this one simple. Let's see, and then we have our tracking, make sure that we have a pixel tracking. So that's all set up into place. So now let's start building our ad. So we're gonna build an image ad, right? Now, to talk more about the specific type of creative that we wanna use, right? So essentially, what our team does before we even start building this, so we have essentially the creative team, right? What they do is they're gonna create different concepts of ads that we can run. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like, right? So I just went to Slack right now and essentially retrieved our concept that our creative team has put together, right? So you can see over here, we have this doc over here with multiple concepts. So the concepts has the caption, which is gonna be like the primary copy, has the headline and has a call to action, right? So all of these are different captions that are different concepts that we can use within the ad, right? So as I mentioned before, we can use anywhere from 4 to 6 different concepts or different ads that we use, right? Just as an example, we're gonna take 4 of these concepts and then we're gonna build that in our specific campaign that we're building right now, right? So in this one, there's 10 different concepts, right? And those concepts has images associated with them, right? So you can see, let's read what the first concept is. The switch offer. So release intimate oil, spring sale up to 30% off. And then it shows you, okay, this is the audience that we're targeting, 35 to 55, using drugstore, lubricant, not getting results. And then the angle is gonna be functional benefits. So the angle for this specific concept that we're pushing is functional benefits. And then ingredient superiority. Hope I said that right. And so now let's look at the creative that the team has put together based upon that specific concept. So that's gonna be concept number 1. So this is the first concept over here that the team put together, right? And you can see, we have all this, we have up to 10 different concepts based upon the doc that I just showed you. So the team will go ahead and put different creative based upon those different concepts. So as I mentioned before, we have this concept over here, as you can see. So this is gonna be like drugstore, lubricant, and you have like the release intimate oil. So this is based upon like that first concept, right? So let's just look at another one. So this is concept number 2. Right, it's very similar to the first concept, right? And then we have concept number 3, 3 weeks of release change everything, right? You have this couple over here, they're having a good time together. And then you also have concept number 4, which is you show release, and then you show you can see all this other lubricants, condoms, and just things, essentially just showing release as the priority, superior product amongst all these other lubricants essentially, right? And you have concept number 5 and so on and so forth, right? So these are 10 different concepts that the team has put together. And we're gonna use 4 of these concepts in one ad set, right? So I'm not gonna download this because this is already saved in the account. So I can just go in there and just select one of those specific ads and start building that out. Go to media over here. So we go to the media section and then we're gonna select one of those concepts essentially. So this is that first one that we saw. So we're gonna take this. So this is a 1x1, 1080 by 1080 format or size. So we're gonna take this. I believe it was this one, right? So we're gonna take that. And then we're gonna go to next, and it'll show you like the different size that you have. With each concept, we wanna make sure that we have the right size. We have a 1x1 and we have a 9x16, but this is not the right size because you can see as like the product is being called off. So let's replace that. Yeah, this is gonna be this one over here, that's the 9x16. And then press back and see how that's updated. And the other size of here, that looks fine over here. This is like a horizontal one. So now you can see everything fits the specific placement. So all the squares are gonna go into like the Instagram and like the meta feed, and then this one is gonna go into like reels and like stories, and this one is gonna go on like the right, like when you go on like meta, like you can see some ads on like the right hand side, and so that's essentially kind of how that's gonna look like. So next thing we're gonna do is click on next. Now, obviously with meta is just AI. Actually, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Let me just go back over here and just get the copy. So the copy, it provides you with the copy over here as well. And here's the thing, guys, we use AI just to generate all of this. We use AI to generate the concepts. We use AI to generate the creative. So it generates the concept and it gives us the caption, it gives us the headline, it gives us the call to action, and then it also gives us the creative as well, right? So we're gonna have another video showing you guys how to do this, but let me just copy this caption over here and then go back to the ad. And then I'm gonna copy and paste that here. Primary text, boom. Okay, so we have the primary text over here. So the next thing that we need is the headline. So let me just go back and copy the headline. The thing that makes it so simple is like, we have like obviously like a media buy. So they don't really have to do too much in terms of like putting together like copy or like creative. So like we have like a creative team that does that. So they understand like creatives and they understand like copy as well. So they produce that and they just pass it along to our media buyers, in which they can just take and paste everything, just kind of making their job a lot easier. And so they can really just focus on just analyzing data and then just kind of providing like solutions on how we can fix performance if performance is not working particularly well. So over here, you're also gonna have the Meta AI give you different variation of this ad copy. So a few brands are a bit iffy about this because sometimes they can use specific words that are not particularly appropriate with your brand. So you definitely kind of want to be mindful when you're using this AI. But so if we're working with a brand that don't really just want to focus on sales and conversion, and however way to do that, yeah, we allow this different variation just to go. If the brand is very picky, then we don't. So we're just like essentially like unselect this so that it doesn't show these other options over here. And then next thing we're gonna do, you can also have the descriptions, and then the call to action is gonna be shop now, and then we just paste the headline. So we'll just click on next, and then it's gonna go into now more AI image generation and gives us more options. So you see the image that we uploaded, right? Now Meta, the cool thing about Meta and just different platforms as well, but Meta specifically, they do a really good job in terms of like creating different variation of the ad that we're already using, right? So this is obviously all AI generated. So it's given us multiple other variation of the ad that we just uploaded in here. So this is the original one that we uploaded. Now it is giving us another version of that right here, another version of that right here, and another. Like it's just so crazy how that works, and it's amazing. So sometimes if I like any one of these, I'm just gonna click on it. I'm like, oh, I really like how this one is different from the other one. I'm gonna click on that. Like let's look at another one. Like, oh, I really like this one, so I'm also gonna click on that. I'm also gonna add that to our overall creative set over here. So now instead of having just the one that I uploaded, it's gonna have two other edition that I can essentially test out as well. If you want, you can select all of these ones as well, right? And you can see over here, like in our experiment campaigns, with all ads adding AI generated images, say saw 11% click-through rate and 8% conversion lift. Just always kind of be mindful of what Meta tells you in that regard. So it may not always be true, or it's gonna be dependent on different brands, right? So now the other amazing thing is like Meta always do recommend that you have some form of video. Over here, it helps you based upon like the images that you provided, it helps you generate specific videos that you can use, which is like crazy. Like it gives you specific videos that you can use. Now again, you just have to be mindful that the videos that it's providing you is actually makes sense, and it's actually, it has like all your brand like value and assets. So let's just look at a few that it put together. Actually, you have to click on generate the video. So let's do this. But this is gonna take a bit of time, so I'm gonna go to continue just so we can get through this video. But definitely do check out the videos that it does provide for you. Like if it looks good, definitely run it and test it, right? If it doesn't look good, like you don't have to run it, but it definitely gives you that option, which is good. So we're gonna go on the next one so we can see the rest of the things that is essentially recommended for us to use. If our clients are very specific in terms of like the brand voice, tone, images, and everything that we're using, we turn off every AI recommended thing that Meta provides. Like we just turn them off because we don't want to run into scenarios where our clients are going to see just versions of ads that they didn't approve, which we definitely seen that a lot. Like Meta would just create these different version of ads that does not really go with your brand voice or with your brand image. And so, sometimes people can get upset with that. So if that is you, if you're a brand like that, you don't want to be using much of Meta's AI option that is providing over here. So just kind of make sure you kind of turning off these other things. So we're gonna click on next. Now you can see the first ad that it generated over here, right? So this is the ad that we just put together. Now, for the sake of time of this video, so the next thing that I would do, I would just go and duplicate this ad, right? And then just duplicate that into 4. So we're just gonna go and do a quick duplicate, and then we're just gonna go and repeat the same process, and then just get the other images along with the caption or with the copy and headline that we're gonna be using, and then just build them up over here, right? And just add them up over here. So you can do anywhere from 4 to 6. And if you have more, and if you have the budget to be able to spend on that, then I would do even more, right? So you're just essentially just duplicating this, and then just continue to build the ads, right? So let me just do a quick duplicate of this one. Okay, great. Now we're back. So we can see that the ad finally decided to duplicate. So we essentially have a duplicate of the ad that we just created. Again, per what I said, you just go in, you just want to delete the media. So delete this, and then just start that process all over again, right? So I'm just going to click on delete, and it's going to remove that. and then I'm gonna click on add image. And then we're just gonna go through that same process again. I'm gonna exit out of this because we don't need to do that process again. As you guys already saw me do that. So I'm gonna show you essentially what like a final version of that looks like. I just wanted to show you an example, just so you know essentially like what button to click, kind of what that looks like, right? And so essentially we created the campaign, and then within the campaign, we have the ad set, and we went through like the breakdown of the ad set, kind of likely what you want to be using in terms of like setting, how much budget you should be allocating on that. Now, I did mention earlier that we do use broad audience on all our campaigns and audiences, right? And the reason why, because the meta algorithm is so sophisticated by now that it understands who your audience is based upon the copy that you're using, based upon the image that you're using, based upon the headline that you're using, and it even analyzes your landing page as well to understand your specific audience, right? So because it does that, we don't need to essentially force the algorithm to use a set of audience that may not even convert well, right? So we just give it free reign because it already understands who the audience we're targeting just by looking at the creative, just by looking again at the image that we put there, the copy, and it analyzes all of that. It knows exactly who we're talking to, right? And so with using a broad audience, it's not being restricted in terms of like who to go and target. So hopefully that makes sense. And so that's why we most oftentimes just use a broad audience, right? And so I'm gonna exit out of this. I'm gonna show you essentially what the final version of this should look like. Okay, perfect. So we're back. All right, so this is the campaign that we just created, right? And I just walked you through like the different steps from the campaign itself, the objective, the ad set, the audience, and like the budget that we're using, and to essentially how to build the specific ads, right? And so to show you a full breakdown of what that is supposed to look like, because this has already been built out for the specific account, the final version of what that's supposed to look like. So the campaign with all the different ad set and the different ad in it. What you'll see over here, guys, is that right now we currently have 2 broad audience running in the specific campaign, right? And so within this broad audience, we're testing like different concepts, right? For what I mentioned before, it's going to be anywhere from 4 to 6. In some particular cases, we do even up to 10 different ads, right? If we have the budget to be able to allocate in that specific campaign. You can see previously as well that we've had multiple different audiences that has ran in the past for this specific account. It's still relatively new, but like we tested those, it didn't work, so we just turned them off. And so we have the ad set. So let's just click on the specific ad set so you can see the different creatives that we're running. Just looking at some of the metrics, we only spent $213 in this account. CPM relatively high. Impressions, I mean, the cost per click is $1.96. That's actually really high. And then click-through rate is a 5.9, which is actually very good. That just means like the ad is good, right? People are clicking on the ad. So, and the click-through rate is going to be just the impressions divided by the ad. That's going to give you the percentage of people who've seen the ad that clicked on the ad. As I'm scrolling down over here, you can see on the ad level, right? You can see in this specific one, we have 10 different ads that we're running based upon the concepts that I showed you guys earlier, right? So we can see we have this video over here, video 1, best night in the year. We have this other video, this other image over here, the bathtub, they forget. And I did show you guys a lot of those ads and when we're looking at the drive. And then essentially what happens is that now, because we've set our budget on the campaign level, so we're essentially just letting Meta do most of the work in terms of analyzing and determining where it's gonna be pushing our budget. It's gonna do that on the ad set level. So based upon like the ad set or the audience that is performing the best, it's gonna push more budget in there. And it's also gonna analyze the ads based upon the ads that are performing the best. It's gonna push more budget towards that specific ad, right? And so that's essentially the structure that we use to scale brands from 6 to 7 figure, right? We focus on one specific product, right? If you have multiple SKUs, obviously you can do that as well, but we focus on one specific product, right? And ideally that product is gonna be your hero product, your best performing product, right? That you know that you're making a profit on that specific product. The margin just looks good, right? And then you kind of orchestrate your whole marketing setup around that specific product, right? You create multiple ads, different concept, different creative concept using different angle to try to sell that specific product, right? So that's the structure and the framework that we use for a lot of the clients that we work with, right? Guys, that's gonna conclude this video. Watching this video, if you're interested in collaborating or working with us, there's gonna be the link down below in the description. Just click on that, book a call on our calendar, and then we can essentially kind of start talking about the different strategy or the different things that we can do to help you out. All right, guys, signing out. If you guys have any questions, just drop them down in the comments below, and talk to you soon.